I want to go back to a Panorama film and about the police and the infiltration of British reporters into the Metropolitan Police Force, and this Panorama revelation. I mean, it's a week old or so now. It's something I didn't deal with a while ago, and I think I should because it's uh, being able to trust our police force is important, and I'm not sure that we can at the moment. And the Panorama investigation looks at a number of issues, but the deeper problem is the quiet normalisation of far right ideas in parts of policing, and and the distraction is the Masonic conspiracy. So much of the immediate chatter about the Panorama film fixates on whether certain Metropolitan Police officers were Freemasons. It's a red herring. The greater danger is the cultural one, the drift inside some parts of the police towards the language and the assumptions of the contemporary far right, symbolised by the name at the centre of the scandal of Tommy Robinson. The BBC's undercover reporter worked as civilian staff at Charing Cross police station between August 2024 and January 2025, and they filmed officers praising or expressing sympathy for Tommy Robinson, the self-styled anti-Islam activist and former English Defence League leader, and making openly anti-Muslim and misogynistic remarks, using excessive force in custody, including against one detainee. 9 officers have now been suspended, 11 staff are under gross misconduct investigation, 1 faces a criminal probe for perverting the course of justice. This is the same station that was at the heart of the misogyny and racism scandal which helped unseat Commissioner Cressida Dick in 2022. Tommy Robinson is not simply a street agitator. Over the past decade, he's recast crude anti-Muslim bigotry as free speech and common sense. He's built a digital ecosystem of live streams and telegram channels that reach into barrack rooms, canteens, and police WhatsApp groups. He's mobilised large crowds, 150,000 in London this summer, with slogans about taking the country back and stopping the invasion. Officers are not immune to the same social media feeds, particularly given the way the social media algorithm works. By the time you've watched 20 or 30 films justifying your own position, you think everybody thinks as you do. That is the algorithm talking, by the way. That is not the size of the Tommy Robinson following. That is the algorithm. And to say, oh, everybody thinks this, is to be misled by the computers. It is the conspiracy memes, the grievance politics that radicalise civilians. Austerity, low morale police, political attacks on policing, and the constant demand to be tough on crime create a fertile ground for simplistic us versus them narratives. And what was once the territory of the National Front, the talk of deportations, cultural replacement, suspicion of Muslims, is now reframed as legitimate concern. The political centre of gravity has shifted rightwards. Reform UK, tabloid rhetoric, and some ministers have echoed themes Robinson promotes. And we shouldn't be surprised that shift has taken place when Elon Musk, who controls Twitter, supports Tommy Robinson. When that discourse is treated as respectable, some officers begin to believe that sharing or endorsing it is just common sense. They're wrong. Secret societies are, of course, sensational. I'm getting onto the Masonic thing. But the real accountability problem is not hidden lodges, it's visible ideology. Officers joining far-right Facebook groups, closed WhatsApp chats where racism and sexism are normalised, a failure of leadership to challenge such cultures early enough, and weak professional standards units overwhelmed or risk-averse. Talking about Freemasons lets the institution avoid facing a far more uncomfortable truth. Elements of the force are being radicalised in plain sight. Now, I have no particular fondness for Freemasons. I've been approached to be a Freemason, I think, 4 times. I remember one person, an old man who I used to work for as a part-time secretary. It is so many years ago. He was an old major. and he enjoyed writing letters to, then I think it was John Major, slightly absurd letters about wanting the Daily Telegraph to give him a free pair of binoculars because he was blind and wanted to see his wife at the end of the garden. The letters were extraordinary, and I can remember just reading through them and thinking these are comedy gold. He was a well-meaning man, but I think his approach to correspondence was peculiar and entertaining, and he knew it to a certain extent. I think he was writing for effect, and I was duly typing away, and only too happy to oblige. But he was quite troubled by arthritis as well, and I remember once he said to me, "Do you drive?" And I said, "Well, no, I don't." And he said, "I'll teach you. I've got a car. I can sit in the driver's seat and show you what to do." And I said, "But you're blind." And he said, "No one will know." And I thought, this is a recipe for disaster. I hasten to add, I didn't have driving lessons from the Major. So I'm now almost forgetting where I was going. Oh yes, that's it. So he would regularly give me handshakes, and because he had arthritis, his handshakes seemed to me to be a bit odd, and I simply mirrored his hand movements, and I many times said, "Are you on the square?" I thought you gave me the handshake. And I've since been asked a few times if I'm on the square. So now, when someone asks me, "Are you on the square?" I say, "No, I was on the circle." But see, the problem with the sort of problems with policing is minority communities already feel over-policed and under-protected. Seeing officers admire Robinson or fiddle around with their trouser legs deepens that mistrust, and counter-extremism work is undermined if extremists believe they have sympathizers in uniform. Officers who view Muslims or migrants as an enemy are more likely to use disproportionate force, fabricate grounds for stop and search, or fail to investigate hate crimes properly. Public confidence is the bedrock of British policing by consent, and that is eroded either by association with far-right movements or by an over-zealous interest in secret societies. What needs to change is firm leadership, not just suspensions after a documentary, but proactive cultural change. Digital literacy and extremism training needs to be established to help officers recognise and resist far-right propaganda and absurdity. There needs to be independent oversight, stronger, faster misconduct systems, and real whistle-blowing protection. And there needs to be an effort towards visible anti-racism, supporting officers who speak out, bringing back civic alliances with trade unions, faith groups, youth culture that once challenged the National Front, and a public honesty. Ministers must stop courting the same grievance politics that fuels Robinson. The headlines of a few days ago that the police forces are going to have to declare if they have Masonic connection is absurd. This is a distraction. The police forces should instead be looking about their connections with Tommy Robinson and with organisations that are perceived to be on the far right. The scandal at Charing Cross is not about mysterious lodges or secret handshakes. It's about how far-right ideology, spearheaded by figures such as Tommy Robinson, has seeped into parts of the police and the wider society. Unless we confront that openly, as previous generations faced down the National Front, that slide will continue. And policing cannot keep public trust while flirting with extremist narratives, and Britain cannot fight the far right if some of its police officers quietly admire its champions.